Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. There was once a person not so different from you or me who lived each day surrounded by the familiar rhythm of routine. The alarm would ring, the world would stir, and yet somewhere deep inside a quiet voice would whisper, "Is this really all there is?" He wasn't unhappy, not exactly, but he wasn't alive either. Every morning he would wake with the same thought, "Tomorrow I'll start changing." But tomorrow came and went like a leaf in the wind. Life kept moving, and so did his excuses. He told himself he was too young to begin, too old to start over, too busy to dream, too broke to try. He called it realism. But truthfully, it was fear wearing the mask of logic. Until one night, sitting alone in the dim glow of his phone, scrolling through the success stories of others, he felt something shift. It wasn't envy, it was hunger. The hunger to feel alive again, to wake up with purpose instead of fatigue, to build something his future self could thank him for. That night, he whispered to himself, "I don't want to live an ordinary story." And though no one else heard it, the universe did. Change never begins with noise. It begins in silence, in that fragile pause between who you are and who you want to become. For him, it began with a question that haunted his reflection in the mirror. If I died tomorrow, would I be proud of the life I lived? The answer was painful. But pain, he realized, was not his enemy. It was his teacher, because pain doesn't come to punish, it comes to awaken. He remembered something his father once said while fixing an old bicycle chain late one evening. "Dreams aren't free, son. You have to pay for them with effort." Back then, he hadn't understood. Now, every word burned with truth. Excuses, the invisible chains that hold millions captive. "I'll start when I have money. I'll begin when I have time. I'll try once I feel ready." But no one is ever truly ready. Readiness is a myth. Growth happens in the unknown, in the trembling moments when you act before you feel prepared. He began studying those who had walked impossible paths. Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, dismissed by society, told she would never make it. Yet she rose, not because life made it easy, but because she refused to let life make her small. He thought of Michael Jordan, who was once cut from his high school basketball team, the same man the world would later call the greatest of all time. He didn't let rejection define him, he let it refine him. And Thomas Edison, who failed 1,000 times before the light finally stayed lit. "I didn't fail," he had said. "I found 1,000 ways that didn't work." Every story of greatness carried the same hidden pattern: struggle, sacrifice, and unstoppable faith. Time, the one currency we can never earn back. Every second spent drifting is a second stolen from destiny. He looked around at his friends, the people he once laughed with. Many were still stuck in the loop, scrolling, complaining, waiting for miracles. And he saw his reflection in them, the version of himself that might never change if he didn't act now. He started small. He woke up earlier. He spent an hour each morning reading, writing, reflecting. The world outside remained the same, but inside, something powerful was being rebuilt: discipline. Because discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency, the silent promise you keep with yourself every day. At first, it felt pointless. He didn't see results. Nobody clapped. Nobody noticed. But the nights of doubt slowly gave way to mornings of clarity. The more he practiced, the stronger his belief grew, not in luck, but in himself. One evening, while his mind buzzed with plans and ambition, he glanced at a photo of his parents, smiling, tired, proud. And something inside him softened. He remembered his mother who had carried him for 9 months, sacrificing sleep, comfort, and dreams so he could have one. He remembered his father's rough hands, the sound of worn shoes, the quiet pride behind every meal placed on the table. They had spent their lives building a foundation for his, and now it was his turn to build something for them. He imagined the day he would hand them the keys to their dream home, the day his father could finally rest without worry, the day his mother's eyes would fill with tears of relief instead of exhaustion. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about meaning. Success, he realized, wasn't about luxury cars or viral fame. It was about peace, the kind that comes when you look into the eyes of those who raised you and say, "You don't have to worry anymore." But peace has a price, and success demands sacrifice. He learned that real change feels uncomfortable, like stretching muscles that have never been used. There were mornings when he wanted to sleep in, nights when loneliness felt unbearable, moments when self-doubt crept in like a storm. And yet he remembered the old story his mentor once told him. A young man had approached a wise teacher and asked, "How can I be successful?" The teacher took him to the ocean, led him chest deep into the water, and suddenly pushed his head beneath the surface. The young man struggled, kicked, gasped, and finally was allowed to breathe. The teacher looked into his frightened eyes and said, "When you want success as badly as you wanted air, you'll have it." That story stayed with him, because he finally understood motivation fades but desperation transforms. He began to see how powerful environment really was. The people around him, their words, habits, and energy were either fuel or poison. Some mocked him for dreaming too big. Others told him to be realistic. But realism had never built empires. He learned to choose silence over negativity, solitude over gossip, growth over comfort. Because if you surround yourself with mediocrity long enough, you start calling it normal. And so, he started seeking people who challenged him, the doers, the thinkers, the believers, the kind who remind you of who you could be. He stopped chasing approval. He started chasing progress. Inside every mind is a garden. Some grow flowers, others weeds. He realized he had been watering the wrong seeds for years. He used to tell himself, "I can't." Now he whispered, "I will." He used to see obstacles. Now he saw opportunities hidden in disguise. He began speaking to himself like a friend instead of a critic. Each morning he'd look into the mirror and repeat the words that once felt impossible. "I am capable, I am worthy, I am unstoppable." At first, it sounded foolish, forced, even. But slowly, the words began to sink into his bones. Because what you repeat, you become. His mind was learning a new language, the language of belief. Then came the exercise that changed everything: visualization. He would close his eyes and see his dream life as if it already existed. The home, the peace, the laughter, the purpose. He didn't just see it, he felt it. He felt the morning sun through wide windows. He heard his parents' laughter echo through the halls. He tasted the sweetness of freedom, not freedom from work, but the freedom to choose his path. Visualization, he discovered, was not fantasy. It was rehearsal. Every great creation begins twice, first in the mind, then in the world. And every time he pictured his dream, his subconscious began building the courage to reach for it. But the mind is a tricky battlefield. Some days it whispered hope. Other days it screamed doubt. "You're not good enough. You'll fail. Who do you think you are?" He learned that these voices never fully disappear. You just get stronger than them. So when doubt arrived, he didn't fight it with anger. He answered it with evidence, with every small victory he had earned. He reminded himself, "I've come this far. I can go further." Because growth doesn't happen when everything feels easy. It happens when your faith is tested and you keep walking anyway. He discovered that transformation wasn't a single explosion of effort. It was a quiet fire that never went out. He set small goals. 10 push-ups became 20. 5 pages became a book. A single idea became a business plan. He didn't wait for motivation, he built momentum. Each evening before sleep, he asked himself, "What did I do today to move closer to my dream?" Some days the answer was small, but it was never nothing. Because he had learned that progress, no matter how small, is still progress. In the rush of ambition, he found something sacred: gratitude. He realized that chasing success without gratitude was like running with no ground beneath your feet. Gratitude made his goals feel lighter, his heart calmer. Each morning, he wrote 3 things he was thankful for: his family, his health, his second chance at becoming who he was meant to be. The more grateful he became, the more abundance seemed to find him. Because gratitude doesn't just change what you have, it changes how you see. There came a time when everything he'd built seemed to tremble. The routines, the progress, the rising hope, all of it was suddenly tested. Because life, as it always does, demanded proof. Just when he began to feel confident, the storm arrived. Plans collapsed, projects failed, people he trusted drifted away. He felt that familiar darkness whisper again, maybe you weren't meant for this. There were nights when he stared at the ceiling, wide awake, questioning everything. He had sacrificed sleep, time, comfort, and yet here he was standing in ruins. But sometimes life breaks you not to destroy you, but to rebuild you stronger. He remembered the words of his mentor. Success doesn't test you at the start, it tests you in the middle, when it can still take you away. And so, even in pain, he stood up again. Because pain, he realized, is temporary, but regret lasts forever. He began once more, slower this time, but wiser. The world didn't notice his comeback. No applause, no spotlight, no instant reward. He worked in silence. While others laughed, he learned. While others partied, he planned. While others doubted, he believed. He built his days like bricks, one action at a time, one decision after another. And slowly, the storm began to clear. He discovered a truth few ever see. The most powerful transformation doesn't come from outside success. It comes from the quiet moments when no one believes in you, but you keep going anyway. Each dawn felt like a second chance. Each sunrise whispered, "You're still here, now rise." He started to understand the mind not as an enemy to conquer, but as a kingdom to rule. The mind, he learned, is a servant and a dangerous master. If you don't lead it, it will lead you astray. He trained his thoughts like a warrior trains his blade. Each time fear appeared, he replaced it with faith. Each time doubt whispered, he spoke louder, "I am in control." Because power begins in thought. The greatest prisons are not made of stone, they are made of thoughts we refuse to challenge. And so he began breaking walls one by one, the wall of fear, the wall of self-doubt, the wall of what will people say. He realized he didn't have to wait for confidence to act, he had to act, and confidence would follow. One morning, after years of striving, he looked at himself in the mirror. The reflection was not of a man who had achieved everything, but of one who had become everything he once dreamed to be. Not perfect, not complete, but alive. He smiled not out of pride, but out of peace. Because for the first time, he saw someone who refused to give up. He whispered softly, "I'm proud of you," and for the first time, he meant it. That moment, he realized, was success. Not the car, not the house, not the applause, but the quiet pride of knowing he had turned pain into purpose. He began helping others, those still trapped in fear, still lost in excuses. He told them stories of the greats, how Oprah rose from poverty to power, how Jordan turned failure into greatness, how Edison transformed persistence into light. But more than that, he told them the story of an ordinary person who simply decided to change. Because greatness doesn't belong to the chosen few, it belongs to the ones who choose themselves. He spoke not as a hero, but as a human being who had walked through darkness and learned that the light is not found, it's created. And people listened. Some with hope, some with tears, all with the same realization that maybe their story wasn't over yet. He learned that success was never about being better than others. It was about being better than yesterday. He learned that true power isn't loud, it's steady. That happiness doesn't come from having everything. It comes from appreciating what you have while working for what you want. He stopped chasing motivation and started cultivating meaning. He realized that every sunrise is a reminder the world doesn't owe us a single thing, yet it gives us another day anyway. And that's enough reason to try again. He began talking to himself differently, not with blame but belief. When he failed, he said, "This is part of my growth." When he succeeded, he said, "I'm grateful." When fear tried to return, he whispered, "I'm stronger now." He began to understand that the way we speak to ourselves becomes the way life speaks back. You can't curse yourself daily and expect blessings. So he turned every thought into a seed, planting courage, watering hope, and watching confidence grow. Years passed, but he never stopped dreaming. He still closed his eyes and visualized not just the dream life, but the person he was becoming. He saw himself inspiring others, guiding them, reminding them that change doesn't require magic, it requires a decision. And in that vision, he felt something divine, as if the universe itself leaned closer and whispered, "You were never waiting for a sign, you were the sign." That realization changed everything. He stopped searching for miracles and became one. There came a time when others asked him the secret to his transformation. He smiled and said, "The secret is simple. I stopped running from my potential." He told them, "The moment you stop waiting for permission to live, life begins to move with you." He learned that no goal is too big for a consistent heart, that passion is nothing without patience, and that destiny always favors the disciplined. Every great story, he said, is written one small effort at a time, and those who persist long enough become legends. He often said, "Growth doesn't come to those who want it, it comes to those who earn it." He explained that your future self is watching you right now, observing every choice you make, every habit you build. Every time you push a little harder, you're shaping that future version into something unstoppable. The gym, the study table, the late-night hustle, the silence when everyone else has given up, those are the places where destiny is written. He called it the law of unseen effort, the truth that no one may clap for you today, but one day, the world will stand because of what you're doing now. He lived by one rule: dream big, act small, but never stop. He said, start with one page, one push-up, 1 minute of focus, then double it. Because small actions done daily destroy big excuses made occasionally. He realized that success isn't built on massive leaps, it's built on microscopic movements in the right direction. And so he kept moving. He used to fear growing older. Now he saw time as a blessing, a countdown not of loss, but of urgency. He knew now that every second wasted was a chance buried, and every second used with intention was a seed planted. He no longer waited for someday. He worked for today, because the truth he learned, the one truth that changed his entire life, was this: the right time doesn't exist. There's only time and what you do with it. In the end, his story became a reflection of every dreamer who ever felt lost, a mirror for those who still doubt, still wait, still wonder if they can. He proved that life doesn't reward excuses, it rewards effort. That mindset shapes destiny. That faith, when paired with action, is unstoppable. He became living proof that you can rewrite your story at any age, from any place, with nothing but belief and discipline. And as he stood beneath a glowing sunrise one morning, the world felt quiet, as if holding its breath, watching him rise once more. He closed his eyes and whispered to the wind, "Thank you for the second chance." This story isn't just his, it's yours. It's every soul who's ever stood at the edge of change, afraid to leap, but did it anyway. Because somewhere inside each of us lives that same spark, the one that refuses to die, no matter how heavy life becomes. It's the voice that says, keep going. The whisper that says, you're not done yet. The fire that says, rise again. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it now, the pulse of purpose beating quietly within you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every second from this moment forward is a chance not to change who you are, but to become who you were meant to be. So breathe. Begin. Take the first step, however small, because this is your time. This is your story. And the world, the same world that once doubted you, is waiting to see you rise. Remember this forever. You were born to rise. The world is waiting for your light.